Welcome back to the final installment of Murder with Friends, Jonestown Massacre edition. I'm joined again by Jack and Amir. So we've covered what happened for the Jonestown Massacre, but now I want to talk about what was the lingering effect, what was the aftermath, and also let's talk a little bit about, could Jonestown happen today?
I think this was a huge hit just on the leftist movement in general. Because you see after, this was 78 when this happened, we went back into a very deeply conservative movement in America, which lasts even to this day. So I think that's one of the legacies of it.
What do you think, Jack?
I read a lot about modern day separatist stuff. I think that's all really interesting. I really love reading about Operation Move and like the Black Panthers, the original Black Panther movement. And all of these organizations still 100% exist today. And back to the land kind of ideas, just like Jim Jones was doing, fully exist, are absolutely out there, and they're not leaving the country and they're not getting the level of followers that Jim Jones had, but this is like a basic human thing that people believe. I mean, you hear, even on a smaller level, you hear people being like, you know, I just love to have like a little farm and like just live out in the country, and that idea spirals into the Bundy guys recently, spirals into all of these separatist movements, even the idea behind the state of Jefferson in the Pacific Northwest. This is a part of America, is this type of separatist cult where you go and form your own government.
Something that struck me when I was watching interviews with some of the survivors or some of the people that didn't make it to Guyana was that there isn't a lot of hatred towards Jim Jones. When they speak about the incident, there's a lot of tragedy in there, but even his own son, his own namesake, he refers to him as Jim Jones, so not as his father, which I thought was a little bit strange in the interview that I saw. But there isn't this anger towards this figure, whereas we saw that with Manson. People hated Manson, people still hate him. But with Jim Jones, it's sort of, he's this very tragic figure, but to me, he's so clearly evil. Why don't his followers to this day hate him as much as we might expect them to?
It's the abusive partner thing. Like, he still gave, with all of the negative, he also gave them positive and he gave them hope. Like, if we want to take anything from his original use of Christianity, obviously that went away, is the kind of messianic, like, give up your money, give up everything, and come follow me, and I will provide, and I will give you love, and then the world will kill me. Like, he couldn't be more Christ-like.
Yeah.
In being, obviously he's self-martyred, but in his mind, he was just saying, I'm not gonna let you crucify me. I'd rather do it myself. But the dude follows, like, the idea of Jesus almost creepily accurately. He is a tragic figure. He's a Greek tragedy in and of himself, along with a horrific, abusive person who killed hundreds and hundreds of people. But we want to look at people in a positive light.
How much more powerful would his message have been if he was the only one that drank the Kool-Aid and said, I'm going to do this for you guys. You guys have to continue on and pass the message on.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Amir.
I know, right?
He would, honestly, he would
Grace
probably,
would definitely be in that.
He would probably have a lot of followers. If that's what had happened, if he sort of knew that the game was up, he knew he was under investigation, and he had a feeling that Leo Ryan wasn't going to give him a favorable review or whatnot, and he had just drank his own Kool-Aid in front of his followers, can you imagine the impact?
And on video.
And recorded everything, his whole manifesto, and then sort of just, see ya. Something that I thought was interesting too is that I saw an interview with a survivor who didn't make it to Guyana, who said, I was addicted to drugs before I joined the People's Temple, and I kicked my habit because of the teachings of Jim Jones. So in a way, she said, I'm thankful to him, even if I, vilify and absolutely...
Even with all the other stuff.
It's true. I mean, even though I absolutely condemn his actions and what he did, the reason why I am not, I didn't die of a heroin overdose was because of the People's Temple and what I learned from the People's Temple. What an amazing conflicting perspective to have on this figure. I mean, that to me was so interesting. But the testimony of the survivors, I think is really a fascinating part of this story. So let's go to a clip right now of a man who actually lost his son in the Jonestown Massacre and his reflections on that time.
Gosney says despite a show of unity, it was he who revealed their suffering in a written note that would accidentally end up in Jones's hands.
It was great terror and fear. I never thought I was going to get out alive.
Several tried that day, reaching a small plane on a dirt airstrip. But Jones's supporters would follow, killing Congressman Ryan and 4 others. Gosney, shot 3 times in the stomach, he would escape to the jungle and survive, unaware who would not.
For God's sake, let's get on with it. We've lived as no other people have lived and loved. We've had as much of this world as you're going to get. Let's just be done with it.
In the aftermath, more than 900 lay dead from cyanide poisoning, including Gosney's 5-year-old son, Mark.
There's not a day that I don't think about my son.
Do you think Jonestown could happen again? Why or why not?
The closest thing that I think you can even compare this to maybe is like ISIS. And just like this
death cult, right?
This whole thing that's going on in the Middle East where people are literally exploiting themselves and they'll do it willingly because they believe in something.
But we don't see this influx of cults as we did in the 60s and 70s. Why is that?
As Jack was saying, they've either become more organized and they operate more like businesses do.
Quieter.
Scientology. Yeah. Or they're just so small that like it's like whatever.
I don't think that there is a thing that could bring people together that easily because we're so fractured now where everyone can get a little bit involved in little different things. But I mean, I think Amir is totally right. We're spending $1 trillion trying to stop a death cult in another country right now where people will literally kill their family and kill children in the street. I mean, these things happen. There's a story of a kamikaze pilot in World War II, and he applied to be a kamikaze pilot, and they're like, no, you have a wife and child, like we can find someone else. And he had his wife kill their child, and then he killed his wife and then reapplied to become a kamikaze pilot. Like, these cults of death might come and go, but they're around. That's a part of us. Somewhere deep, dark in a few thousand of us, 20,000, 100,000 of us as a species, that's all there. You know, it's not going anywhere. It's just moving around.
We've only gone even further into believing in individualism, at least in the West, like since the 70s when it was kind of cool to be more of like about the collective and whatever. So yeah, I don't see something as large scale as Jonestown ever happening again.
I think that Jonestown, it would be difficult for it to happen again because of the internet and how interconnected we all are. That's what I think. I think that when you hear about the Concerned Relatives Initiative that were trying to find their relatives in San Francisco, waiting outside the commune, there were people trying to find their relatives, petitioning leaders. They're going to Guyana. Oh my God, why is my aunt there? Like they needed help. Whereas today, with the internet, with texting, with all the social media and all the connections that we have, it would be very easy to find your aunt or to find a way to get to her or to contact foreign governments if you had a problem, to petition help. And I think that's a major flaw and a major reason of why Jonestown was able to get as far as it did and as far reaching as it was because this was a community that was so heavily isolated. Jim Jones did an amazing job of isolating the people that even when you were in his cult, you didn't really talk to one another. There was this sense of camaraderie, but you weren't actually connecting or speaking with anyone or relating to anyone because you were so busy working all the time thinking about these ideas, but not really thinking about your own ideas and your own individualism. And I just don't think that today, with how bombarded we are with our own self-interests,
right,
you would be able to do that. So I don't think it could happen. I hope it doesn't happen. We want to hear from you in the comment section below. What do you think about Jonestown? What part of this story, of this massacre, lingers with you? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you next time on Murder with Friends.